So I invite you to close your eyes and open your mind and heart to the presence of God. That beautiful, loving, infinite oneness in which we all live and move and have our being. We hold in our hearts today our President and First Lady, all of the members of government who are experiencing COVID in this moment, all of the people in the world that are experiencing COVID in this moment, whether they are experiencing the virus or just experiencing the effects. This is a shared experience. It's a call to remember that we are all expressions of God, and we are one with God and with each other. And we are so grateful for that knowing. I'm grateful for this spiritual community where we can come together to remind ourselves and remind each other that we are the presence of God right where we are. And we say thank you. Thank you, God. Amen and amen. Good morning, everyone. Please rise if you would like to sing together. Please, I thought it was time to play again the song that Richard Harrison wrote the lyrics for, because we haven't gotten to do it live with the band. You're feeling low and down blue. Well, this is a remedy, you know you can use. Toss your shadows in the air, 'cause love will take away the blues. Well, it's love, love is in the air. 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 Power of love is everywhere. Power of love is everywhere. Power of love is everywhere. And love will take away the blues. When your heart is heavy and you have suffered long, and you need some comfort to make you strong. Toss your troubles in the air. Love is happening everywhere. Well, it's love, love that's in the air. Love that's in the air. Love that's in the air. Love
solid. Welcome, everyone. Whether you're here in person on our beautiful Unity grounds or are joining us online, you have chosen to be with us this morning. My name is Bill Chapman, and I have the honor to be your facilitator today. If you are new to our spiritual community, we would like to direct your attention to our website at www.unityofcolumbia.org. You can find information there about Unity and ways to get connected. At Unity, we offer practical spiritual teachings that empower abundant and meaningful living. We believe and practice the following. God is absolute good everywhere present. Our essence is of God, and therefore we are inherently good. We create our experience by the activity of our thinking. Prayer and meditation are the highest forms of creative thinking. As we practice these principles, we live the truth we know. Please join me in affirming our vision, mission, and core values. Our vision is we celebrate a spiritually awakened world. And our mission is we inspire the awakening and practice of divine love in every heart. In addition, we celebrate our core values, knowing that we have come here to be spirit-centered and to express the values of love, peace, and connection. And now it's time for a moment with our children. We ask the children to stay with their parents rather than coming to the front.
Okay. Hi. So, I have a little story about a king. And this might hear the story. It's my version of it, but it's called The Three Questions, and it's from Leo Tolstoy. So there once was a king who was a great thinker. You see, he was in charge of so much, his whole kingdom. So everybody asked him to make the decisions. He had to choose when to do everything, and he had so many people who needed his attention and his help. I forgot to stop. So he also um, he had to also decide, what was the right thing to do in every situation because there were so many different ways you could go, so many options. So he narrowed it down. He really wanted to do what was right all the time. He wanted to be the best king he could and do the most good. So he knew he had to get to the bottom of these questions. So he took these three questions. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important? And what is the right thing to do? And he told um, the whole kingdom that there would be a reward for anyone who could just figure out the right answers to these questions for him because he knew that if he could get them right, they would guide him and he could never fail. So he asked all the wisest people in the kingdom and just kept asking. He got a lot of different answers. Everybody had a different answer, but none of them really satisfied him. He didn't think they were going to work. So he decided he had to go on a long quest. Or at least he didn't know it would be long, but he set out on his quest, and everywhere he went on the road, he was asking these questions. So eventually, he came to a wise man who was just digging a bunch of holes. He had heard of this wise man before, so that's why he knew he was wise. But he saw this guy digging all these holes, and he asked him his questions, and the man just smiled and kept digging his holes. So the king said, "Well, you must be tired. May I help you dig?" And he took over the shovel and started to dig, and he dug all day. And late in the day, he heard something. was like someone in the distance who sounded like they were hurt. They were moaning and everything. He went and investigated, and he found somebody who was, it was like a soldier who was just um, all bloody and stuff. And he went, he, he took the wounded soldier back to the white man's hut and bound up his wounds and took care of him all the rest of the evening until he was just so tired that everybody had to go to sleep. So when he woke up the next day, the wounded man was just so grateful to be alive. He promised to be the king's friend forever and do anything for him. The king was really glad to have made a royal friend and make him a new knight of his court. So he really wanted to go home at this point. He felt like he was ready to go home somehow. And he asked the wise man his questions one more time to see if he would ever get an answer to these. And the wise man told him he already had shown that he knew the answers. He said, when you came to me, the most important time was right then when you were digging the beds for my garden. And I was the most important person. And to do me good was the most important thing for you to do. And after that, when the man needed your help, the most important thing you did. No, hang on. We're looking for someone who's got a red SUV. Okay. Because I know you can still hear me. Okay. Yeah, so have a window. Yeah. The most important thing for you to do was to help that man who needed his wounds taken care of. And when you were attending to him, he would have died if you hadn't done that. So that was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. So essentially, there's only one important time right now, because that's the only time when you have any power to act. And the most important person is the one you're with. For you really don't know if you'll ever get a chance to be with another person. And the most important thing to do is to do good for that person, because that is our purpose in life. So anyway, since we all have so many decisions to make and it's not always easy to figure out what's right, I hope that you can maybe use those answers to help guide us. And also, I was just going to point out that, I'm sure Leo Tolstoy was inspired by the teachings of Jesus too, because that's the kind of thing he was teaching. Oh, and let's bless our children. Bless our children. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ you are. Okay, now we'll go. All the kids can follow me that way.
Thank you. The breeze flows. The papers leave. Today's word is fearless. Our affirmation is, I am fearless as I live authentically. In the past, I may have hidden my light, afraid to be myself. I may have tried to please others by conforming to someone else's ideas of who I should be. I may have shrunk from the aspiration, fearing that I would fail in pursuit of my goals. I may have doubted the divine perfection at the core of my spiritual self, identifying with my perceived flaws and feeling small and inadequate. Today, I make a new choice. I choose to live fearlessly, drawing upon my faith to believe in myself, my imagination to envision the best life I can, and my understanding to know my divinity. Bold and brave, I am fearless as I live my life authentically, pursue my dreams, and express my divine nature. Our scripture reading is from the book of Deuteronomy. Be strong and bold, have no fear or dread, because it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Now let us join together in speaking the affirmation aloud. I am fearless as I live authentically. And now repeat it to yourself silently.
I am not the things my family says. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of brokenness inside. I am I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the pain I leave behind. I am I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my hair. I am not my ring. My soul inside is I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
Thank you to Audra and the band. It's so lovely each week to step into the energy that our music team has created. Well, clearly I don't have words to describe the feeling, but I feel it. So thank you. So good morning. My name is Laurie Boyd. I'm the minister here at Unity of Columbia. And I want to welcome you to week 2 of our Fall Faith celebration. This fall we're studying a book called The Wisdom Way of Knowing by Cynthia Bourgeault. If you haven't bought a copy, I highly recommend it. Um, so we're talking about wisdom and a very specific kind of wisdom, a specific study of wisdom. Cynthia defines wisdom as a precise and comprehensive science of spiritual transformation. And this science of transformation involves both a theory and a practice. The theory is a comprehensive vision of our purpose and destiny in our humanness. Why are we here? The practice involves a systematic training for growing into that purpose. So last week we learned that the wisdom that Cynthia describes is the foundation of all of the world's great religions. It is older than all of the great religions, and it supports them all. And yet we also learned that the Christian West has by and large lost touch with this foundational wisdom practice. And so I want to talk just a little bit about how this happened. Jesus, before he was cast in the role of Savior from sin, was known as Moshel Meshalim, which is Master of Wisdom. He taught this ancient science of transformation that we call wisdom. Cynthia writes, for those who heard him and traveled with him, the encounter was truly a wisdom event in that it required participation. It required a deep inner knowing, a recognition from within. These first followers, they knew nothing about this idea of Jesus as Savior from sin. The crucifixion and the resurrection had not happened yet. So they didn't have this story. So we wonder, what then drew them to Jesus? What was it that recognized? Well, it's the same thing that draws all of us to the spiritual path. As Cynthia explains, there is within us, there is a deep and pristinely clear something in each one of us that has the capacity to recognize wisdom when we need it. And it is the nature of wisdom teaching to call that something forth. So for Jesus' immediate followers, their encounter with him was a wisdom encounter. In the early centuries after Jesus' human life ended, his followers continued the wisdom tradition, the teaching, the practices. And they knew that through their practice, they could attune themselves deeply, fully, wholly, with their whole being, to an awareness of the divine. And this allowed them to encounter the wisdom teaching of Jesus as a lived experience, continuously renewing a present moment encounter with the divine, even after the person of Jesus was gone. Unfortunately, over time, the driving force behind their practice, this memory of this encounter with the teacher, with Jesus, it began to fade. And more Christians turn their focus away from the balanced practices of wisdom and toward a primarily intellectual understanding of who and what Jesus was. They developed creeds and dogmas. You may have heard of the Nicene Creed. Some churches still recite that every Sunday today. It became more important to speak the right words about Jesus and to believe the right things about Jesus than to have a personal experience of the wisdom that he taught. Cynthia calls it the death knell. She says the death knell of the wisdom way of knowing for Christians, in the Christian West at least, occurred in the late 5th century, late 5th century, in a great struggle between two factions, one led by Augustine, who's now been sanctified, St. Augustine, and the other by a man known as Pelagius. Pelagius was a leader of the wisdom tradition. He and his followers believed that people are both fully human and fully divine. They believe that it's both possible and necessary for people to seek a full realization of their own divinity within their human experience. In fact, this is the whole point. This is the whole point of our earthly existence. This is our one universal purpose, to embody the divine. Augustine, on the other hand, was horrified by this idea because he looked within himself and he looked around him at the people that he was with, and he saw nothing but sin and corruption, people failing to live their divinity. And so, in trying to understand how this could be, how could people be so unable to live this divinity, he came up with a doctrine called original sin. He said the reason that people fail in living their divinity is because we are fundamentally flawed. It's inborn in us. We are we are sinful by nature, and the only salvation is possible through divine intervention. Salvation is only possible through divine intervention. And that's what Jesus was. He was that divine intervention. And so the crucifixion and the resurrection became much more important in the teachings because that was the saving grace. Well, this dispute actually played out over several years, decades, a couple of decades, and across 3 continents. People gathered, they argued, they debated, great debates. Are people fully human and fully divine, or is that reserved only for Jesus? Was Jesus God, or was he human, or was he some combination? And eventually, Augustine's side prevailed, and this became the official church doctrine. Pelagius and his followers were declared heretics, and they were persecuted to near extinction in the centuries that followed. And yet, and yet, the wisdom tradition in Christianity was never completely lost. It was preserved on the edges, in the monasteries by Western mystics like Meister Eckhart and Hildegard of Bingen, in Eastern Orthodoxy. Cynthia makes a good case that the Christian West was, wisdom of the Christian West was preserved in Sufism, which isn't even a Christian faith, yet it is part of that tradition. And it was preserved in movements like Unity. We in Unity are direct descendants of the Christian wisdom tradition. One of my professors at seminary, Reverend Dr. Tom Shepard, wrote a book called Friends in the High Places, in which he draws that lineage from Jesus to Unity and shows how that tradition was preserved. You can see the wisdom tradition in our 5 basic principles. God is absolute good, everywhere present. Our essence is of God, and therefore we are inherently good. There is no concept of original sin in the wisdom tradition. Prayer and meditation are our primary tools for experiencing the divine presence and for accessing that flow of divine wisdom, for developing that consciousness that we are expression of God. The encounter with wisdom is a deep and timeless opening of the heart through a systematic practice of receptivity to higher meaning. Every time we turn within and open our mind and our heart to God, we are making ourselves receptive. We are practicing that receptivity. We are engaging in the ancient practice of wisdom. So one of the defining characteristics of the wisdom way of knowing is that it is a whole person experience. It is not just an intellectual experience. It embraces and requires our whole being, mind, heart, and body. It embraces the wholeness of us and invites us to be whole. This combination is what Cynthia calls three-centered knowing. It involves the intellectual center, the moving center, the body, and the emotional center, the heart. So the intellectual center is our mind. It's our thinking faculty. And in the wisdom tradition, you might even say that the intellectual center is the seat of our little s self, as I would call it, our human self, our ego self. The intellectual center, Cynthia says, carries the denying force. Its natural aptitude is for reasoning, for doubting, for making fine discriminations. And these functions are very necessary and important. Yet, as Cynthia says, trying to find faith with intellect alone is like trying to, I love this image, trying to play the violin with a saw. It's the wrong tool for the job. The intellectual center tends to pull us toward a smaller sense of ourself. The process of thinking encourages us to identify solely with our thinking self as what we consider to be me. This makes us more and more dependent then on thinking as a way of maintaining our sense of identity. When we live only in our thinking self, we lose our deep connection to our spiritual self, our Christ self, the I am within us. It's not that we lose that self, but we lose our awareness of it, our present moment awareness. The moving center includes our physicality, the outward and voluntary interactions with the physical world. It's informed by our five senses and expressed in movement and rhythm. The moving center carries the affirming force. Its natural aptitude is for reaching out, for embracing, hugging. There's a reason we hug. For making contact and maintaining connection. Cynthia writes, the moving center carries our capacity to understand the language of faith encoded in sacred gesture. Think of namaste hands or upraised hands, kneeling, bowing, prostration. Think of walking meditations or liturgical dance, the physicality of singing, playing an instrument. All of that is that body center, that moving center. When we sing the peace song at the end of our services and raise our joined hands together, we're engaging in sacred gesture. Brother Lawrence understood the importance of the moving center. His, his practice was called the practice of the presence of God. And he described how the rhythmic and repetitive motion of the tasks that he did in the monastery kitchen became a deep practice of devotion and mindful awareness of the presence of God in every moment. I want to invite you just right where you're sitting to engage with me in just a little bit of sacred gesture. So we'll start with infinite God, in whom I live and move and have my being. Intimate God, you are always with me. Innermost God, I am the light of the world. Infinite God, in whom I live and move and have my being. Intimate God, you are always with me. Innermost God, I am the light of the world. Something about simply bringing our body into motion takes that prayer so much deeper. We feel in a way that we don't feel when we're just speaking words and thinking about them. The emotional center then. The emotional center. I love Cynthia's definition of this because when I think of the emotional center, I tend to think of big floppy emotions. And that's not what she's talking about at all. She says, our emotional center is our tool for perceiving divine purpose and divine beauty. So just as our five senses allow us to perceive the physical realm, our heart center, our emotional center, allows us to perceive the divine. It allows us to perceive the spiritual realm that is all around us. It can directly receive and radiate and reflect the unmanifest divine reality. Cynthia writes, the heart is not for personal expression, but for divine perception. Wisdom teaches, in fact, that unchecked personal emotions actually confuse and block the heart center. As part of our wisdom practice, we have to develop the maturity to understand where our personal emotions are coming from, through self-awareness, self-acceptance. And we teach ourselves to spot and release the elements of clinging and manipulation and personal agendas that are behind our personal emotions. So we learn to recognize our own story and question. The emotional center carries the reconciling force. It serves as the bridge between the mind and the body, and between the physical world and the spiritual realm. It is our emotional center that has the ability to comprehend paradox. This is what gives us the ability to take what seems to be an either-or situation and turn it into a both-and situation. It is our heart center, our emotional center, that allows us to step back and see the importance of all. We don't have to resolve or close down or protect ourselves from ambiguity. With our emotional center, we can be in the question and know that it is right and perfect to be in the question. So we have these three centers: the intellectual center, the moving center, and the emotional center. And when we engage in practices that keep us balanced in all three of these centers, a shift happens in consciousness. A shift happens within us. We become present, fully occupying this now moment. As Danielle shared in her story, what is the most important moment? Now. It is the only moment in which we have power. When we're balanced in those three centers, we come from a deeper place. We're steadier. We're quieter within. And we are able to consciously and intentionally choose to be the presence of God right where we are. So your homework assignment this week is to continue reading in the book, continue discussing with your groups, and to consider your own spiritual practice in the light of this three-centered knowing. Does your spiritual practice include practices that draw forth and build capacity in all three centers of knowing? Do you feel called in this moment to maybe make a shift in the balance of how those three centers are relating in your own practice? And so now I'd like to move us into a time of meditation.
I am alive in this world. I am alive in this world. To be God expresses humanity. To be God expresses divinity. I'm not in the world. I am in the world, sorry. I am of the world. I bear the light. Maybe I'll get the lyrics on the second time. I am the light of the world. I am a light in this world. To be God expresses humanity. To be God expresses divinity. I am in the world. I'm not of the world. I bear the light. I bear the light. You are alive in this world. You are alive in this world. Do you God expresses humanity? Do you God expresses divinity? You are in this world. You're not of this world. You bear the light. You bear the light.
And so I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And feel that breath in your body and blow it out. As you continue to breathe, Notice your body. Notice where you are warm, where you are cold. Notice the breeze, or if you're indoors, notice the feel of the air in the room. Notice the earth beneath you, grounding you. And in this complete awareness of your body, allow your attention now to move into your heart. Notice any emotions that you might be experiencing. Notice any thoughts that you might be having about those emotions. Allow your thoughts to settle, knowing they won't go away. They don't need to. They're not wrong. And every time you find yourself having a thought, use that as an opportunity to release and to turn your awareness to God within. A thousand thoughts are simply a thousand opportunities to turn your awareness to God. As we rest for a few moments in the silence, practice that three-centered awareness. Body, mind, and heart in the silence. And so I invite you now to begin to return your attention to this time and this place. Call into your heart a feeling of gratitude. Thank you, God. Amen and amen.
You are light in this world. You are light in this world. of this world. You bear the light. You bear the light. We are light in this world. We are light in this world. Through us God expresses humanity. Through us God expresses humanity. We are in this world. We're not of this world. We bear the light. You bear the light. I bear the light. We bear the light.
As always, we return from our meditation filled with gratitude and peace. In that consciousness, we turn now to our spiritual practice of generosity. With this practice, we choose to dedicate a consistent portion of our time, talent, and treasure to our spiritual work and to the work of our spiritual community. Now is the time to share our treasure. When we give, we see ourselves as a channel, a divine source. We give as a way of expressing our calling to be the presence of God in this world. We remind ourselves that any gift given from the heart has the power to transform lives. This week, our gifts support the mission of Unity of Columbia and the Food Bank of Northeast and Central Missouri. If you are here in person, you may place your gift in the love offering box as you leave today. If you are giving online, we are putting a link in the chat screen where you can donate online. And now, please hold your gift in your heart as we speak our offering blessing together. Divine love, one with me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful.
So we're continuing this week with our What Unity Means to Me. And I realized that Reverend Laurie and I haven't done What Unity Means to us. So I thought I would start with What Unity Means to Me this morning. Um, unity to me means the expression of God in the world and showing up and being seen. And I look around these grounds and I see a stained glass window and I see beautiful landscaping and I see our roof being redone. I see all of your faces. I see this beautiful cultivated area we sit in. And then how all of you are here and how all of you show up as God in the world. And your expressions are seen everywhere in our building and are felt every time that we're together with service, if that's on Zoom or if that's here together now. I'm just so fully aware of how unity people show up and allow themselves to be seen. And by doing that, you gave me permission to do that, which started a whole flood of me writing music. It started a whole flood of me performing again, even though I hated doing it and still not super comfortable doing it. I did all of those things because I came here and met people who said, I see you and it is beautiful. Thank you for that. I can't ever say thank you enough. And talking and singing is, and playing at the same time is harder than singing right at the same time. Not to do it.
We have two symbols of blessings today. First is the love offering given this morning. We bless these gifts and are grateful for this opportunity to make a difference in the lives of our spiritual family and of the world. Second is the prayer box. In prayer, we affirm and encourage each other to expand our awareness that we are expressions of God. As our awareness grows, we receive an abundance of all that we need to fulfill our soul's purpose.
Now it's come that time in our service where we're going to hold one another in prayer. Please say the names of folks that you would like to hold in prayer. And between Reverend Laurie and I, will try and hear that. If you're in the Zoom meeting right now, you can use the chat screen, and you know that that will be indicative of in the comments that way. Holding Kelly, our drummer, and her partner, Lashara. Pam,
Eileen,
Bob,
Kim W., Taylor, Janica Donald and family, Kathleen Wesselman's mom, prayers for everyone who has the coronavirus and their loved ones. We take this opportunity to go deeper into the heart of compassion and leave ego behind.
and a circle into the corner. Thank you, Dan.
At Unity, we are transforming lives. Each Sunday, we come together to experience God in connection. And Unity is more than a Sunday morning experience. We offer many activities throughout the week to expand our awareness of God and to bring us closer to each other. Now, join us for the quarterly community meeting on Sunday, October 11th, immediately following the service. The Board of Trustees will give an update on our ministry finances and the progress of our facilities work. Also, on October 11th, join us here in the parking lot at 1 p.m. for a drum and chant circle led by Audra and Roshara Knight. Bring your drums, your hands, your feet, your voice, and join in creating vibrational and musical healing with your community. Check out the e-newsletter for more details. Audra asks that you RSVP if you plan to attend. It's time again to nominate recipients for our Partners in Service Generosity Practice. Nominations will be accepted through next Sunday, October 11th. You are here in person. Please fill out the form in your bulletin and leave it in the love offering basket. If you are online, use the link in the e-newsletter to submit your nomination. Now, the women's ministry organizing a day of landscaping at Unity on Saturday, October 17th. I don't see how it could get any more beautiful, but there will be about an hour of work followed by an outside socially distanced bag lunch and time to talk. This event is open to all female identifying members of Unity. Please refer to the e-newsletter for more details and how to register. Also on October 17th, we will be hosting a Park and View movie night. Our feature film will be Disney's Pixar's Coco. The cost is $10 per car, and since it is getting dark earlier now, the movie starts at 7 p.m. And now we have an announcement from Rick Hansen.
While Rick is approaching, I'm just going to remind everybody that we have the Upsides concert next Saturday. It was pretty drizzly and cold yesterday, so that didn't feel like the upside of things. So this week it's supposed to be like 80 degrees, sunny and beautiful. I hope you come out 6 p.m. right here. It's $10. It's a just a donation, but that's for a carload. So you can do all of that for a website. Thank you.
Take the mask off. If I don't, my glasses will fog up. So, as already said, my name is Rick Hanson, and I'm a member of the board nominating ministry team here at Unity. Okay. I'm here to invite you to consider becoming a part of our Unity Board of Trustees. I want to talk a little bit since I am on this nominated group. I'm also a board member, and I've been a board member for between 5 and 6 years. So I want to talk a little bit about that, what I've done. There have been a lot of things that have gone by in the last 5 to 6 years that I've been on the board. One of the main things we did, we selected a new minister. And that was an involved process, but we learned a lot, and we learned about how we can get everybody involved in that process. Another thing is I'm looking around, looking at all these people here, I can see the roof. And that's another thing that has been a large, big activity, uh, working on the physical needs of the church, the building itself. That's a constant thing that goes on, and it's involved, and it's been a rewarding activity. Being on the board, I work with different ministry groups. Um, I guess what I can say about being a board member is we serve you. The, I've been involved as a federal employee, and the term that we use, being a federal employee that I enjoy, I was a public servant. I was there to serve the public as a whole. Rather than call it the board of Unity, I like to call it community service. We serve you, we go with you, we talk to you, we're always wanting to get input from the people within Unity. That's very important because we want all people involved. It's not a board decision. We collect stuff, but we serve you, and we go to you to find out what's best for you. So I hope that you can call me anytime and you can serve me. I'm going to experience. I'm going to repeat, Bill's already said a few of these things, but it says, this year we have two openings. It is a 3-year term beginning on January 1st. Must have been a voting member of at least 6 months to run. The deadline for application submission is next week. It's October 11th. There's a link for more information and the application form on the homepage of unityofcolumbia.org website, and also in the e-newsletter. The nominating ministry team will announce the slate on Sunday, October 25th, and members will vote at the annual membership meeting on Sunday, November 15th, immediately following the Sunday service. So once again, as a board member, I want to instill in people within Unity, we are here to serve you, and that's our job. Always feel free to approach me or any member of the board. That's what we do, and I hope you get people to realize that and sign up to possibly be a member of the board. Thank you.
So please join with me in singing the prayer of protection. Stand at your able.
invite you to carry the knowing with you that you are the light and love of God. Wherever you are, God is.